The UK government today has decided that a journalist and publisher can be extradited from their country for publishing evidence of war crimes, torture, and corruption. Julian Assange will appeal this decision to the High Court in the UK. He has 14 days to appeal the decision, but what this decision means is that basic journalism that people do every day, sourcing information, publishing information, is now illegal in the UK.
Your Australian friends find it extraordinary that the country that gave the world freedom of the press, enshrined in its constitution in the First Amendment, today brought that freedom to an end. It's over. For a publisher to be extradited to the United States, charged under the Espionage Act, oppresses all publishers, all journalists everywhere. So we find it a bit shameful that the United Kingdom has conspired in this process to bring an end to freedom of the press with the Department of Justice of the United States. It's regretful. Adding to that, Australian citizen Julian Assange, extradited to the United States. We have heard nothing from the Australian High Commission in London, and the US Embassy, the Australian US Embassy, has made no statement of this tragic end to an Australian citizen, a publisher, a journalist, and finally to freedom of the press.
No stranger to being sued, Elon Musk faces a new lawsuit, this one for $258 billion, not by an investor in Tesla or even Twitter, but by an investor in the cryptocurrency Dogecoin. In a complaint filed in Manhattan federal court, plaintiff Keith Johnson accused Musk, his electric car company, and his space tourism company SpaceX of running a pyramid scheme, touting Dogecoin and driving up its price, only to then let the price tumble. The complaint also alleges that Musk was aware that Dogecoin had no value yet promoted it to profit from its trading, and that he, quote, used his pedestal as world's richest man to operate and manipulate the Dogecoin pyramid scheme for profit, exposure, and amusement. Tesla, SpaceX, and a lawyer for Musk did not immediately respond to requests for comment. A lawyer for Johnson did not immediately respond to a request for comment on what specific evidence his client has or expects to have that proves Dogecoin is worthless and that Musk ran a pyramid scheme. Johnson is seeking $86 billion in damages, representing the decline of Dogecoin's market value since May of 2021, and wants it tripled. He also wants to block Musk and his companies from promoting Dogecoin, and for a federal judge to declare that trading Dogecoin is gambling under federal and New York law. Over the last 2 years, Musk tweeted often about Dogecoin, including an April 2021 post that said, quote, SpaceX is going to put a literal Dogecoin on the literal moon. The complaint said that Dogecoin's sell-off began around the time Musk hosted Saturday Night Live on May 8th of 2021, and playing a fictitious financial expert on Weekend Update called Dogecoin, quote, a hustle. As of Thursday, Dogecoin traded at about 6 cents, down from its May 2021 peak of about 74 cents, which amounts to a more than 90% decline in value.
Mike Pence had a chance to be great. He had a chance to be, frankly, historic.
The day after the latest U.S. congressional hearings on the January 6, 2021 assault on the Capitol by Donald Trump supporters, the former president criticized Mike Pence's actions that day, saying that his vice president had lacked courage. Trump on Friday blasted Pence in front of Christian conservatives in Nashville.
But just like Bill Barr and the rest of these weak people, Mike, and I say it sadly because I like him, but Mike did not have the courage to act.
The hearings have detailed the ways in which Trump urged his supporters to turn on Pence for refusing his order to reject the 2020 election results before they stormed the Capitol, some chanting, "Hang Mike Pence." On Thursday, former Pence aides told the committee that Trump pressed Pence to overturn the election results in Congress after being told repeatedly that it was illegal to do so. Democrats on the panel said Trump kept up the pressure even though he knew a violent mob of his supporters was threatening the Capitol, where Pence and lawmakers worked to certify the election results.
I said, well, what happens when you have more votes than you had voters?
Trump repeated his false claims that his defeat to Joe Biden was the result of widespread fraud, claims that were rejected by multiple courts, state election officials, and members of his own administration. Trump continues to flirt publicly with the idea of running for president again in 2024, but for now, the former president is concentrating on a revenge election campaign this year against his perceived enemies, including 10 House Republicans who voted to impeach him after the Capitol attack.
What do we want? Reparations. When do we want it? Now. What do we want? Reparations. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Reparations. When do we want them? Now. What do we want? 40 acres. Reparations. Now. What do we want? Reparations. Reparations. Say the word. Reparations.
For me, reparations means like we get back what we lost, what our ancestors lost, and like we did lose a lot of things back in the day, and I guess it's to satisfy our anger and our frustration with what's going on in the community.
The harm must be repaired, and that is through reparations. Every other group of people who have been harmed by the United States, and even in some instances other countries, have been able to get some type of reparations. It is time for us, people of color, black people, whose descendants came here on slave ships in 1619, who helped build this country, to get reparations.
When do we want them? Now. What do we want? Reparations. Say the word. Reparations. Say the word. Reparations.
Wall Street ended mixed on Friday, but suffered its biggest weekly percentage decline in 2 years as investors wrestled with the growing likelihood of a recession after the U.S. Federal Reserve and other central banks hiked interest rates this week to stamp out stubbornly high inflation. The Dow fell fractionally on Friday. The S&P 500 posted a modest gain, while the Nasdaq rose nearly 1.5%, but each of the three indexes fell for the third week in a row. Adam Coons is a portfolio manager for Winthrop Capital Management.
I think what we're seeing today is just after a very volatile week, surrounded by the Federal Reserve's 75 basis point hike in rates, is that the market's just kind of taking a breath today. We're ahead of a holiday weekend, a 3-day weekend. So I think you're just seeing investors just kind of trying to take a pause here. What we think is in the back half of the year, you're going to see the Fed begin to take their foot off the accelerator of tightening monetary policy, which then will fuel the markets once again.
Economic data on Friday showed production at U.S. factories fell unexpectedly in May, the latest indication that economic activity was on the decline. As for individual stocks, battered mega caps recovered somewhat Friday, with Apple, Tesla, and Amazon posting gains. Airline stocks also bounced back after a bruising 2 weeks, but energy stocks, the year's best-performing sector, plummeted Friday, with ExxonMobil, ConocoPhillips, and Devon Energy all posting big losses on concerns a slowing global economy could sap demand for oil.